Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another instalment in the Copper and Wood Chute Mountain Railroad. During the last two instalments, I've managed to get all the rough lamp forms shaped over the entire railroad except for the drop flap. In this week's video, I'm going to create all the rock outcrops and various cuts. Now, the client had sent me some photographs of rock cuts in the area that he's modelling, and I wanted to get the texture as close as I possibly could. So I ended up not using any rock moulds at all on this railroad. Everything was hand carved after studying the photographs he sent me. So anyway, without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and carve those rocks. Well, I have had a good clean-up. I've put all the tools away, and as you can no doubt see, I have masked all the track, at least everything for the main area of the railroad that I'm working on at the moment. I haven't done the staging yard or the drop flap yet. I will do those when I'm ready to move into those areas. But I am now ready to start getting messy. First thing I've got to do is put the plaster gauze over all the areas that will eventually be rock outcrops. So I'm going to get organized, and I will talk to you again later. For this step, the tools are pretty basic. I have a craft knife, which I used to cut up some plaster cloth. Normally, it's best to buy the 8-inch wide rolls if you can find them. I just happen to have a bunch of 4-inch already in stock, so I'm using that. Don't buy it from the big companies that specialize in model railroad scenery, as it will cost you a lot more. You can always get a better price on Amazon. For a large area, a bulk box with a single length of fan fold plaster gauze is usually going to be the most economical. Otherwise, boxes of 18 or 20 or 24 rolls is usually the way to go. Also, we need a drywall mud pan with some water in it and a spray bottle. The reason for the spray bottle is that you need to keep a wet edge. If plaster that you've already applied dries out too much, then it will suck the moisture out of any additional plaster added to it and cause a weak bond. Going over to the scenery area, I always start by draping a piece over the top, getting that in position first, and then all the other pieces can be hung from it. That works a lot better than starting from the bottom up. It's not going to take very long. I've already cut up 3 rolls into manageable size pieces. It's not going to be enough to finish the job, but it'll be a good start. So I'm just going to turn the camera off and get sticky. Well, those 3 rolls went a lot further than I thought they were going to. As you can see, there's a lot of foam that doesn't need to be covered. Anything that's going to get sculptor mold is best not covered at all with the plaster, because the sculptor mold will stick to the foam a lot better than the plaster cloth. I really did not expect those 3 rolls to get along here, but as you can see, I got most of the way along behind the standard gauge. I still need a few more pieces in this corner, and there are usually areas that I find I want to reshape once I get to this stage. The next thing I'm going to do is mix a batch of plaster and start working on a rock outcrop somewhere. Well, I've had to run around gathering all my rock carving tools. I have an assortment here. There's more than I need here. For carving the rocks, a steak knife is a good tool, as is an old craft knife. Chisel. Here's another chisel which has got a rasp. That's part of it. Sometimes I use those, especially once the plaster has started to kick and it's got a lot harder. I can sometimes get a lot more shaping onto it with the chisels than I can with a knife blade that bends. A couple of clay carving tools are also useful. Here's a bigger knife. You need paint scrapers and drywall tools in a variety of sizes, although that's mainly for cleaning the buckets. I like to alternate between 2 mixing buckets. I found that 5-quart size is a good size to go for. Get those at Lowe's or Home Depot. I like to alternate between 2 buckets. That way, while I'm working on one batch, the waste in the other one has time to get hard enough that I can clean the bowl just by turning it over and tapping it with the handle of a tool. We need the spray bottle full of water, which I told you about earlier, so that we can wet down surfaces that have already dried off and avoid sucking the water out too fast. A roll of paper towels, also essential for washing and drying hands afterwards. A couple of measuring cups. A 1 cup and a 1/2 cup measure are excellent because you need approximately twice as much plaster as you do water. So use the 1 cup for the plaster and the 1/2 cup for the water, and the same number of scoops of each. And then down on the floor, I have a 25-pound bag of plaster of Paris and another 5-quart mixing bucket with my water supply in it. The first area of rock carving I did was the back wall of the main rock cut. And although I forgot to take a video clip immediately after I'd done that, here is one of the client's photographs that I was working to. I wasn't totally happy with the results of my first attempt, and initially I was inclined to have another go at it, but I called the customer and he said it looked great to him. It's far better than he expected, and he asked me to leave it the way it was. Anyway, you will see a view of this cut in the next clip. Well, here is an extra step that I felt I needed to do on this railroad because I haven't done narrow gauge before. I wanted to make sure that I left myself plenty of clearance. So here is one of the client's passenger cars, one of his longest cars, and I have about 1 inch of clearance, so I have plenty of space. In fact, it's more than I thought I had, but I felt it was certainly a good precaution to check it. Anyway, now that I know that I have plenty of clearance, I'm going to put the passenger car away where it's safe, remask the track, and continue with the plaster work. Well, I have done 3 more batches of plaster. I still have the inside of the cut to do, and I still need to extend this mass on both sides and probably put a little bit more in there. I was planning on going straight into that right now, but I'm really not feeling well at the moment. I don't know if I picked up something, but I'm going to go inside and sit down, and if I feel better later I will come back out again after lunch. What I don't want to do is stay out here and bill the customer for less productive hours. Well, I did not come back out here yesterday afternoon, but I'm here again now this morning. The first area that I'm going to do is the back side of this cut and finish off around both ends of these mounds around the back. I'm going to work from the outside of the railroad on this batch. I think it's going to be a lot easier than reaching over and down. It probably doesn't look much different from the front, but I've now finished the back wall of this cut. I'm now wishing that I'd started with that one and left the highly visible wall till the end, because the one that will never be seen I think looks a lot better. I did send the client a photograph of this rock face when I first did it, and suggesting that I had another go at it, because it didn't quite match the one that he sent me a photograph of, and he said no, leave it just the way it is, because it's a lot better than he could do, and he's very happy with it the way it is. I'm now going to move on around the back of the mine area and also in front of it. Just gradually work my way around to the right. Just keep going, see how far I get. Well, that is one more batch of plaster applied and carved, and another one mixed. Here's a little tip I'd like to share. Rather than trying to get the plaster directly from the bucket to the railroad, it's a lot easier to instead dump it onto a mortar board. All it is a scrap of plywood about 10 inches square. Actually, a foot square is probably better, but that was the size of the off-cup I had. Either 1/2 inch plywood or masonite or any portable flat surface. So now I'm just going to transfer that mortar board over to the railroad site and apply the plaster to the scene. Well, that I think is 5 batches this morning. I did the last one from the other side around here, So that is the end of the main rock outcrop. I've still got the 2 stream beds to do and a whole load of small rock cuts throughout the railroad. It's still a bit early for lunch. It's only just noon, but I'm hungry now, so I'm going to go in and get some food, and I will come back out later and continue. I've just done 2 more batches. That got all the small cuts on this side of the railroad done, along with the back side of that hollow for the stream bed, and the first of the cuts along this side. I think 2 more batches should finish the job, well, apart from the drop flap. But before I do that, I'm missing some plaster cloth in this corner. So I'm going to take care of that next, and then I will mix some more plaster. Well, I've now carved 1 more batch. Got those last 2 rock cuts done in the back corner. And I think I am still 2 batches away from finishing, because that was less than half what I still had to do. Anyway, I have answered a question that I had last week when I bought the plaster of Paris. I wasn't sure whether to buy 1 bag or 2. Well, I have just started the 2nd bag, so now I know how many I needed. Well, I have now finished all the rock carving along this side of the railroad, which is basically everything except for the drop flap. I don't feel like cleaning up the mess this afternoon. I just want to go inside and sit down for a bit. And just pen around the rest of the railroad. Yes, I know there's a lot of tools and debris in the way. I'll give you a better look at that tomorrow. But I'm going to go in now and get on with some other stuff inside where I can sit down. Well, that's all for this week's video. Hope you enjoyed the show, found it useful or interesting or both, and I hope to see you back next week. Not quite sure what I'm going to do then. I think I might take a break from this series and insert something different. But whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. So I'll see you back here for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.